How's it going, everybody? Ed Ricker here with the DJI Mavic Air in front of us. Right now what I want to do is do a little comparison, a little contrast between PolarPro's neutral density and polarized Cinema Series filter pack and Freewell Gear's 4K Series 8 filter pack with neutral density and polarizer as well. As you can already tell, PolarPro has neutral density 4, 8, and 16. Neutral density is what will darken your image by 2 stops, 3 stops, and 4 stops. And then they also have the polarized options where you have neutral density plus a polarized aspect which will reduce glare on surfaces and reflections on non-metallic objects and that type of thing. Freewell Gear has a neutral density 4, 8, and 16 and a circular polarizer, plus an ND8, ND16, ND32, and ND64 with polarizer. So we have much darker filters in this pack. We also have 8 in this pack as opposed to 6, and the prices are $150 versus $130. Now, Freewell Gear is less expensive with more filter options. We'll see if that has any effect on quality and if it really affects the image at all. So as we already know, neutral density filters will darken your image, and the point why we'd want to do that is so that we could maintain a low shutter speed if we wanted to incorporate some motion blur into our image. If we don't have a low shutter speed, then we'll have little motion blur, and then we'll have a very stuttery image as we're flying around, especially with fast moving objects. And since I mentioned earlier that polarizers can help block some of the reflections on non-metallic surfaces, you'll actually see trees kind of green up a little bit, and the blue on water, blue on sky kind of get a little bit more radiant and deep with the colors. So I do like to have polarizers with most of my drone flying. The fact that Freewell Gear also has ND32 and 64 means that we can really get a dark image if we need to. And if you're taking still pictures, you can bump down your shutter speed drastically and still get a well-exposed image, which will allow you to get some really cool effects on still images, if that's your thing. They might also help if you're shooting video in a very extremely bright situation, although normally ND16 is satisfactory for a bright sunny day. Now, this is PolarPro's pack. It also includes a cleaning cloth, which is nice. PolarPro's always had some great case designs. This one's very compact, has room pretty much only for what you need in it, looks sharp to me, and the filters look very snugly fit. Also, when you take off the filter ring, which is on the Mavic Air when you first get it, it'll also fit snugly into your PolarPro case just fine when using another one of the filters. That way you're not going to lose this little thing. Here's Freewell Gear's case, a little more open space inside the case. This could be a smaller case if they really wanted it to be. You can see that all 8 are snugly fit in, although a few of these, especially the ND options, don't fit very snugly. And if I were to do that, some are going to start coming out like that. You'll also see that the Mavic Air lens ring just kind of lays in there. So again, it's going to probably come out on you. Just got to be careful. But the good thing that I like about this is that the case seems to be a little more scratch resistant than the case on the PolarPro. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's some scratches on there. This one, just because of the nature of the plastic, seems to be a little more scratch resistant. Also, Freewell Gear comes with a cleaning cloth. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. This could almost be an eyeglass cloth too. I do like the size of the PolarPro version over the size of this one. I feel like they could kind of get this a little bit smaller if they wanted to, but that's all right. That's a minor gripe. Pulling out the filters, you can see that the Freewell Gear one is a little bit bigger, but I do feel like the plastic is a little bit thicker on it too. I'm not sure if that's gonna keep it held onto your camera any better or not, but it almost looks like this is for 2 different lenses, but they both fit on very snugly. Now, PolarPro lenses right here are very small, and there is a ring that will adjust the polarized option. See how it turns independent of its base? But it's so small that actually I kind of prefer the feel of the Freewell Gear version. But I do like how this turns, and it gives you a little bit more meat to kind of grab onto as you are turning it. Now, I'm not going to say that this is an easy process for either one to install it on the lens. This is just such a small lens, and the fact that it's hanging on a 3-axis gimbal here means that both of them are kind of a chore to get on if you're not used to it. But anyway, they turn. Now, the Freewell gear versions do turn a lot easier than the PolarPro ones. And the PolarPro ones are a little more consistent in how tight they are as you turn them. The Freewell gear ones, you can kind of feel they might be really easy to turn, and then all of a sudden they hit a little snug point and it becomes more difficult to turn, and then you get past that and now it's easy to turn again. So they might not be lined up perfectly, but they do get the job done, it seems. Going through the PolarPro ND4, 8, and 16 all looked about the same in terms of colorization. There was no difference. One was not warmer than the other. However, with Freewell gear, the ND4 was notably warmer in the image than the ND8 and 16. In editing, I can probably fix that, but it's a little more tedious that way. Now there's a whole video that I shot for both of these. This one's called Carolina Beach in 4K. This one's called Charlotte NC in 4K, and you can kind of see that maybe one looks a little better to you or not. Regardless, they were all with the same white balance settings, all shot in 24 frames per second at full 4K. In terms of shooting into the sun, I really didn't notice too much difference in terms of glare. These filters don't really reduce sun glare a whole lot. You're still gonna see some of that. There are also a few examples from both of the videos I shot with these filters that show that yes, you will see a little bit of glare on the camera lens when you're flying anywhere pointed near the sun. If there is a big difference, it's probably negligible, and I don't really think that is gonna affect my flying or my video taking capability. For stubby fingers, I feel like this might be a better option. You can just get a little bit more of a grip on the filter as you want to turn it for these polarized options. And even for the other ones, they just seem like they're a little bit bigger and have a bit more of that edge to it like a coin has. I didn't have any issues with either filter turning on the drone or calibrating the gimbal. They both seem to operate just fine in the air as well. Now my process for installing either of these filters is to first off power off the drone, screw on the filter of your choice, power on the drone, look at your image, and then if it's a polarized option, you can turn that little ring on the polarized filter to either increase or decrease that polarized effect. Now, PolarPro also has a standard filter pack. There's 6 of them. It's essentially the same type of filters for $100, which may be a good option. I have not used their standard series pack, but I do understand that they have a standard series optical HD glass as opposed to their cinema series glass. I'm not really sure if that's marketing or what that is, but regardless, you still are getting 2 more filters here, so essentially that would still be potentially the same price, in which case we're comparing similar type filters. So as the sunlight starts to creep across my table, I just wanted to say they're both good filters, honestly. The quality of these filters, PolarPro, might be a little bit better, and the case design I think I favor a bit more. However, for stubby fingers, these filters may actually be a better option, and since you get the ND32 and 64 options with the Freewell gear set, you might be able to save a little bit of money, get a little more bang for your buck. Links in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and until next time, happy flying.